The Mormont sigil is a black bear on a white field surrounded by green. Some versions include green trees. On the simplest level, the sigil refers to the Mormonts' home, Bear Island, and its vast forests with a large bear population. On the deeper level, it embodies the ferocity, loyalty, strength, and warrior spirit within House Mormont.
We are not a large house, but we're a proud one. And every man from Bear Island fights with the strength of 10 mainlanders.
If they're half as ferocious as their lady, the Boltons are doomed.
In the earlier seasons, whenever the Mormont sigil was displayed, the bear stood on all fours. But in Season 6, the bear aggressively stands upright, a more ferocious and human version of the bear. And this is also similar to how the sigil is described in the books. The change reinforces the nature of House Mormont. Mother bears are notable for being ferociously protective of their young. And on Bear Island, we see warrior women acting as protectors of their homes and children.
But House Mormont remembers. The North remembers.
Overall, the Mormonts symbolize ferocity, bravery, rough exteriors, making the best of limited resources, pride, protectiveness, and loyalty.
You came back. Twice. And you saved my life.
With the male leaders gone at the start of the series, Jorah as leader of the Night's Watch, and Jorah having fled to avoid execution, Bear Island has been ruled by Jorah's younger sister, Lyanna's mother and Jorah's aunt, Lady Meg, who fought alongside Robb Stark. Now that Meg's whereabouts are unknown in the books and she's dead in the show, Bear Island is led by the 10-year-old Lyanna Mormont, who embodies the ferocious Mormont strength, bravery, and undying commitment to protect her people, and is hardly held back by her small stature.
Do you know this wretched girl? Lyanna Mormont.
The Lord Commander's niece.
Lady of Bear Island. And a child of 10.
Jorah Mormont also embodies typical Mormont qualities of strength, honor, and fearlessness during his time as Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
Honor made you leave. Honor brought you back.
My friends brought me back.
I didn't say it was your honor.
But he meets a sad end when he is killed and betrayed by his own men. Meanwhile, the Mormont that we've actually spent the most time with is Jorah, the black sheep of the Mormont family who's been absent from Bear Island going through trials and tribulations with Daenerys.
The first time I went north of the wall was with your father.
He was a good man. He deserved a better son.
At first glance, the Mormonts that we meet seem pretty disparate in personality, and it's a little hard to think of Jorah, and Lyanna as family members since we meet them in such different contexts. But while he doesn't consider himself worthy of the Mormont name, over time, Jorah's Mormont qualities come out more and more clearly.
Long, sullen silences and an occasional punch in the face. The Mormont way.
Does loyalty mean nothing to you?
It means everything to me.
And yet here you stand.
And yet here I stand.
The Mormont motto, "Here we stand," speaks to their perseverance and the difficulties that have shaped them. They are still standing, despite great hardships and very unfavorable odds. The change to the sigil of making the bear standing quite literally visualizes their motto, "Here we stand." And the words also reflect their unwavering dedication to their allies and loved ones. The Mormonts pledge allegiance to the Starks, both in the War of the Five Kings and in the Battle of the Bastards, and they promise to stand with the Starks unconditionally because
we know no king but the king in the north whose name is Stark.
The Mormonts will stop at nothing to defend the North and the Starks.
No king but the king in the north whose name is Stark.
While fighting Ramsay in the Battle of the Bastards, Jon drops his sword, Longclaw, and picks up the Mormont shield, which symbolically represents that the Starks are always protected by the Mormonts. Jorah, while he's not in the North, also embodies the Mormont motto through his determination to stand with Daenerys. He survived being beaten, enslaved, and banished repeatedly, and even overcame a supposedly incurable illness to return to Daenerys' service. To quickly recap the story of how Jorah brought shame to the Mormonts originally, Jorah distinguished himself fighting to defeat the Greyjoy rebellion.
The bitch of a siege.
You were first through the breach of Pike.
The second. Thoros of Myr went in alone, waving that flaming sword of his.
Thoros of Myr. Bloody madman. Robert knighted you after the battle.
Proudest moment of my life.
and he was rewarded with marriage to Lynese Hightower from the Reach. But Jorah's new wife became miserable on the desolate Bear Island.
I'd no money and an expensive wife.
He attempted to satisfy her expensive tastes, falling deeply into debt. And in desperation, he participated in the illegal slave trade.
Suffer for a reason. Sold men into slavery.
Ned Stark came to bring him to justice.
Now Ned Stark wants my head. He drove me from my land.
But Jorah fled into exile with Lynese, who eventually left him for a wealthier man.
Where is she now?
In another place. With another man.
In the events of the show, Jorah shames himself again by betraying Daenerys.
You told them I was carrying Drogo's child?
Aye.
Yes or no?
Khaleesi.
Don't call me that. Did you tell them I was carrying Drogo's child?
Yes.
Yet even if he begins as a family embarrassment and still seems uncomfortable anytime anyone mentions his father, Jorah can't escape his Mormont nature. Samwell Tarly cures his grayscale out of respect for Jeor, so even when it's unasked for, Jorah is protected by his family.
I knew your father. I was with him when he died. You're not dying today, Sir Jorah.
And in the present events, Jorah is currently redeeming himself and embodying the Mormont loyal perseverance through serving his queen.
I command you to heal yourself. And then return to me.
Even if their loyalties manifest in different ways, the Mormonts all embody this eagerness to fight and willingness to sacrifice themselves in standing for the cause that means everything to them.
He's my king, from this day until his last day.
The Mormont black and green symbolize their outer seriousness combined with their inner warmth. Black is usually associated with the darkness of winter, which relates to the Mormonts' identity as Northerners through and through. Black is also an authoritative and dignified color, and the Mormonts approach life with a serious, weighty attitude. And black makes us think of taking the black, like Jeor does as Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. And we also know that in the books, in Jorah's final moments, he reveals to Sam his final wish for Jorah to take the black. As yet, this desire has been left unfulfilled. Jeor instead passes down the family's Valyrian steel sword, Longclaw, to Jon Snow, who is something of a surrogate son to him.
This is Valyrian steel.
It was my father's sword. His father before him. The Mormonts have carried it for 5 centuries. It was meant for my son, Jorah. He brought dishonor to our house, but he had the grace to leave the sword before he fled from Westeros.
Jorah refuses to take Longclaw back, still harboring shame for disappointing his father.
I broke my father's heart. I've forfeited the right to claim this sword. It's yours.
Green is a calming color that promotes growth like the abundance of forests on Bear Island. It evokes connection with nature.
What do you pray for, Sir Jorah?
Home.
Like the green of their sigil, the Mormonts, while they seem at first to be emotionally distant, mirroring the sparseness of their Bear Island, are inwardly nurturing and warm. Lyanna is driven by a strong familial bond and fierce love of her home in the north. Even the gruff Jeor reveals that under his rough outer shell, he's truly protective and loving.
That's enough. Tarly, I forbid you to die. Do you hear me?
The bear on the sigil embodies that the Mormonts fiercely look after their own, but are deadly to anyone who goes after their cubs. The bear also refers to Bear Island and how the Mormonts are shaped by their bare environment. Sparse in natural resources apart from trees, Bear Island has made the Mormonts good at making the most of what they have. They're a fairly poor house, which was the source of all Jorah's trouble with his wife. Jorah Mormont is often known as the Old Bear. Lady Meg is known as the She-Bear, and fans call Lyanna Little Bear. In the books, Daenerys occasionally refers to Jorah as her bear, her Great Bear and her Old Sweet Bear. Like a bear with its cubs, Jorah would do anything to serve and defend his queen. In the books, Meg has 5 daughters, but in the show, Lyanna appears to be the only one remaining. Daisy Mormont, the eldest, fought valiantly as Robb Stark's personal guard and was killed during the Red Wedding. The second oldest, Alysanne, known as the Young She-Bear, is described as short, chunky, and muscular with big, calloused hands. An unwed mother of 2, Alysanne claims her children were fathered by a bear, and that Mormont women are skin changers who turn into bears. In the books, one of the titles associated with Tormund, husband to bears, may hint that he could be the father of some Mormont children. The fighting Mormont woman is echoed in the carving on the gate to their hall of a woman with a nursing child in one arm and an axe in the other. Unlike most women in Westeros, the warrior women of Bear Island are well equipped and well trained to defend themselves.
I don't plan on knitting by the fire while men fight for me.
They didn't have the luxury of choosing whether to fight because of constant threats to their survival. Lyanna is the ultimate symbol of this warrior woman who's strong because she needs to be, and fights with her heart.
And I don't need your permission to defend the North. We'll begin training every man, woman, boy, and girl on Bear Island.